Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and once again, I am joined by my friend Angel.
Welcome back. Hi.
We're continuing our Port Charles Time in a Bottle coverage. This week, we are covering week 5. So I will roll the credits, and we'll get right into it. All right. So we open up on Cookie holding her broken chain that her father had ripped from her neck. And she's trying to reach out to Karen and Frank, but her father is yelling for her, and she backspaces what she started typing to them. Karen is worried about Cookie, and she wants to help her.
Mm-hmm.
We get a replay of Ian and Eve making love at the hospital. And Ariana returning.
Time in a bottle play.
And Ariana returning to the apartment from a walk with the photo album. I kept checking the time, and like the first 10 to 12 minutes of this felt like a music video. It was just like everything was just
like,
boom, 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 as like music played.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I? Oh, Cookie's father says she should get some friends, and he doesn't know what to make of her. And she says it's because he's always drunk and he slaps her. Ben is in the apartment when Ariana enters, and there's a struggle, and the photo album falls to the floor. And during this, montage that's happening, Ariana says Ian will be home soon, and Ben says he just saw him at the hospital with his whore, the woman he really loves. And he pulls a knife on her. I was getting really nervous watching this.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, oh God, no, please.
I was like, I don't know how much they're gonna show. Like, looks like I don't.
Yeah, I was surprised of what they did show. Like in the in the same genre that brought us Frankie Frame's murder. Like, I'm surprised that they didn't do more with it. And plus it's ABC, so I'm not. It's Disney, so I don't think they'll show a lot.
Sometimes they surprise you, though.
They do surprise you, yeah.
Yeah, and also I just kept thinking, fuck you, that's your sister. Like, you're gonna kill your sister. Like,
especially the stuff that they said later, like about Ben. I'm like, I thought this was something pulled by their family. That's why Ben is after her, but I guess they dropped that portion.
He pulls a knife on her and stabs her multiple times. And we only find that out like in the aftermath, that when Kevin finds her. So Kevin's knocking on the door, and he hears Ariana moaning for help. He breaks in and finds her on the floor, and Ben brushes past him and runs out of the apartment. Cookie's father threatens to throw the computer out. Apparently, he had a line that this was supposed to make him rich, like he invented the computer.
I did hear that.
What he wanted him to do. And that's why he has all this anger, I guess.
Well, that and he's drunk.
And he's drunk. Cookie says that she needs it for school. And he said, what for? And she says, science. Karen tries to message Cookie, and Cookie's father gets zapped when he touches the computer, and then Karen gets zapped. Ariana is rushed to the hospital in critical condition, and Ian and Eve's pagers both go off for them to report to the ER.
Mm-hmm.
They rush in to find out about Ariana. Cookie stands up to her father when he tries to take her necklace again, and she says, I don't care what you do to me, you're not getting your hands on this necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Karen just wants to turn the computer off and get rid of it. She's like really pissed that she got shocked.
I would be too. Like, if my computer shocked me, I'd be throwing it out the window.
Like, so much so, like, she went from like wanting to help Cookie, like, fuck that bitch. She's like, she can help herself.
Cookie can just crumble at this point.
Karen notices that her necklace fell off and the clasp keeps giving out, which is an interesting note because Cookie had mentioned to her father that when he said, I thought I took that from you, she said she got it fixed except for the clasp. Or he said, too bad you couldn't get the clasp or something along those lines.
Yeah, something along those lines. It had to do with the clasp.
Besides being the same exact looking chain, they both don't work correctly. Kevin is being questioned at the police station, and Ben walks in saying he understands that they've been looking for him. And Ariana begins to crash on the operating table. I didn't, as much as I wanted Ariana to go away, I didn't want her to get hurt like this. But as the week progressed, I was like, God, how are you annoying even in a coma?
I know, right?
Like once I knew she was going to be okay, I was like, okay, you can leave. You can still leave.
Yeah, they can just. Well, what could they do? What could they do? They could say that her injuries were even though the operation was a success, the injuries would have to require her to go to rehab. So that's how you took her off. Yep. Simple.
Lucy comes to Livy's place, and Livy tells her that she was right about Chris, and tells her about him taking her diary. And Lucy lets it slip that she knew the diary was at the house.
That was at Chris's house in the drawer.
Livy wants to know how she knew that.
Yeah.
Kevin is willing to testify that Ben stabbed his sister, but Ben interrupts him and says that he just became a foreign diplomat and has immunity.
He got diplomatic immunity, so Hammer, you can't sue.
Kevin one-ups him and says he has the authority to place him on a 72-hour psych hold at the hospital. And he follows that up with, people get lost in the system, and sometimes it could be weeks, and they never leave the same. I was really proud of Kevin. Lucy admits that she saw Chris with the diary at the hospital, and that's when she took it and she planted it in the apartment. And then while she's doing her Lucy thing, rambling, she also lets it slip that she wasn't alone. And of course, Livy puts the pieces together that her father, Kevin, was there. But Lucy tries to protect Kevin by telling him, I was the one that paid off the person to let me into the apartment.
Yeah, super.
She's like, he just followed me. Where am I? Oh, Lucy is afraid that Livy is mad at her, but she actually thanks her.
Which I really like that scene a lot.
Yeah, I felt like Livy was very mature this week. She still had her moments where she overreacted, but she came back quicker. Ian, of course, is blaming himself that Ariana got hurt because he should have been with her instead of with Eve. Kevin finds them and tells them that about Ben and that he put him in a 72-hour psych hold. And then we see Ben, from the looks of it, having overpowered a nurse or an orderly.
Yep. And
breaking out of his room in the psych ward with a phone. It looked like it was a cordless phone.
Welcome to 2001.
Ian gets a call and leaves abruptly. He tells Eve and Kevin that it's a patient that he needs to attend to. Livy tells Lucy not to take this as an open invitation to meddle in her life. This was a one-time deal. Lucy tells her she should pursue Jack, but Livy mentions Sam. And Lucy tells her, oh, I took care of that. I scared her off. And tells her about the mob thing. She told her that Kevin was in the mob and works for Sonny. And Livy decides to get dressed and go see Jack. And we find out that the phone call Ian got was actually Ben, and he meets him on the roof of the hospital, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Probably another part of the roof. You know, this the different part of the roof from where the woman nearly jumped.
Nearly jumped, right?
Actually, that looked like the one from Night. That looked like a little bit from like the same roof part of the portion of the roof from Night Shift.
Did it? I haven't
Yeah,
seen it.
when they was like, oh my gosh, like there was like this one part where they were coming from it was the end of the episode and they were playing the song Night Shift, but it wasn't like the original version. It was like what did we call it? And I was watching with a group of people. It was like a Karen version of Night Shift, and not our Karen, not like Karen Wexler. We're talking about like it was sung by a Karen.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a singer songwriter who did it, but like and they did like a lot of other songs on the show. Like they will redo songs for the end of the episode. Yeah, if we watch General Hospital Night Shift, that happens in a lot in the first season.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah,
I like when shows do that. I like to hear covers of songs that I know. I don't know if you watch Roswell, New Mexico at all, but they did at least the first season. They did that a lot with a lot of 90s songs. They had covers, like slowed down covers playing.
They did that in Hollyoaks too. Like when and it was mentioned recently on the podcast I listened to. They had a slow version of 500 Miles for when a character was dying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was so beautiful.
Huh. I have to give that a listen.
Well, the song was, but not the character dying. That was horrible.
You think if I Googled or like YouTube 500 Miles Hollyoaks, I could find the version?
I'm so sure you would.
I want to hear that. Karen and Frank have dinner with Allison and Jamal at the bike shop. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty elaborate table to have at a bike shop. I've seen your apartment. Just have it at your apartment.
Yeah.
It's big.
They have a nice size apartment.
Allison leaves to go get pie from the apartment. And Jamal asks about the computer. And Karen gets all like, and says the computer tried to kill her. Allison finds Livy lurking in the shadows, and she says she was trying to work up the nerve to tell Jack she was wrong about him. Jack and Sam are at his place getting frisky, and Livy tells Allison everyone was right about Chris. I don't know why my notes auto-corrected Chris to Christina, and it's throwing me off because there's a Christina connection.
Yeah, there's a Christina. Well, yeah, she's the baby. We're not talking about like, Kate Nancy.
Allison thinks that this is great, and they could double date now. That's all she cares about. Jack stops things from going too far with Sam because he's still in love with Livy. Ian and Ben get into a fist fight, and he holds him over the edge and asks Ben, how does it feel to have someone else hold your life in their hands?
Love that scene.
Eve distracts him, and Ben gets the upper hand. And Allison gives Livy a key to Jack's room so she can wait for him there. She leaves, and literally seconds later, Jack walks in the other door with a sandwich from the recovery room, the bar, not the hospital.
The hospital.
So I guess they all rent rooms or apartments attached or above the bike shop.
I'm guessing
that Allison has a key to it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what's happening.
Eve jumps on top of Ben, who throws her to the side, and Ian is able to turn the tables on him, and he has Ben hanging off the ledge.
And I was like, die.
And I was like, this is a very interesting moment, because Ian did look like he was going to try and grab his hand to help him, and I'm like, is this where you pause for a minute and you're just like, let's see if he can get up on his own? I'm like, maybe I'm a bad person.
Hey, look, I literally just told Ben to die like a few seconds ago. Like, we're all bad people in some ways.
Livy returns back to the bike shop. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Kevin arrives and holds Eve back from getting involved again. And then Livy returns back to the bike shop, and Jack returns to his room to find Sam. He tells her to get out, and Sam says this was his last chance, and he blew it. Livy says to Allison, sending her to Jack's was the worst idea she ever had. And then, once again, seconds later, Jack walks through and says, "You really think I wanted that?" And Allison's like so confused. Cookie is sitting in front of the computer waiting for a response from Frank and Karen. And Ben falls to his death. And Kevin tells Eve and Ian to go, and he'll take care of this.
So I used it a few times on Twitter. There's like a clip from Ellen where the audience is cheering. That's how I was like when Ben died. I was like, see you on Passions.
There was throughout while all of this that I just read was going on, there were scenes cut of like Ariana having surgery. We saw Monica from General Hospital.
Yay, Monica.
Apparently he stabbed like all her organs because she's like, let's repair the liver first. The pancreas looks fine. And I was just like, Jesus, what did he do to her?
Jeez.
Chris helps with the surgery. So Jack,
and he tells Ian that, like, I think you mentioned this before, even Ian, that like they're too involved and they can only observe the surgery from like I was picturing it as like, you know how on I don't think it's on Grey's Anatomy, but you know how like there's like when you have surgery and then there's like a little like,
yeah, I used to watch The Resident, and they used to have like a viewing room for surgery.
Viewing room, yep. They had like a big viewing room. Yeah. I've seen it on what was that show? Chicago Hope. Okay. When I was watching it back in the day, and I'm not sure if Grey's Anatomy has it. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy that much.
I watched it in the beginning, and I feel like at least the first season, I remember them being in a viewing room. Mm-hmm. I think it's for teaching purposes.
For teaching purposes, yep.
Yeah, and maybe for family members. I don't know if that's allowed.
Yes, that would be a morbid reason, but yeah.
Especially well. Jack clears up the confusion with Allison by telling her that Sam was in his bed, and Allison tells him that Livy was sent to his room, and they kind of piece together that Livy probably saw Sam. Livy meets with Lucy at the recovery room, the bar, not the hospital. And is filling her in on what happened with Jack. Lucy defends Jack, and Livy says it figures she would after what happened the night between them. Lucy says that excuse has run its course, and she can't keep blaming because like nothing happened between them. Mm-hmm. Even though I wish they would have had one night.
I know, right?
Kevin finds Ian and Eve and tells them the police are ruling it an accident, but he personally thinks that justice was served. And part of me was like, all right, we're just like all okay that we let a man die. I know he was bad, but like we're just gonna brush that under the rug.
And then, like I said before, like I thought that the honor killing hit was put out by the family and not just by Ben. So wouldn't Ariana be in danger still? Because like if Ben is dead, then Ariana's still alive. Well, at this point she's in surgery, but the family would make sure that like, oh, like she got raped, she got her virginity taken. Let's still kill her because this is a pox on her family, or however they view this honor killing. So
yeah, I don't know what to equate it. I want to say a hitman, but I'm not really sure. But let's just say a hitman for argument's sake. If they fail, they're just gonna keep sending another hitman to come get you. Like it's not over.
So she would have to go into witness protection at this point too.
You watched Buffy, right?
A little bit, yeah.
You remember the second season when there was like, it was called like the Order of Taraka, and it was when we found out about Kendra being the Slayer, the second Slayer?
I know of it, yeah.
They kept saying like, it doesn't matter how many of them you kill, they're going to keep coming until they finish their task. So it kind of reminds me of that, like what you were saying, that it's not over just because Ben's gone.
Yeah.
But for the sake of Port Charles, it probably is.
Yeah, because they have to get through. It's week 5 in a 13-week book. You gotta you gotta fluff up some things. So.
Right. Kevin tells Ian and Eve that they were never on the roof to keep their story straight. Lucy convinces Livy to try again with Jack and get a fresh perspective. Jamal is taking a bike for a test ride when he runs into Zach and Sam outside. Zach wants Jamal to race for him, and Jamal turns him down. Jamal gets in Zach's face and grabs him by the neck, and when Allison comes outside, Zach sucker punches Jamal and says he'll see him at the race. Jamal fills Allison in on his history with Zach, that when Jamal used to ride, he unknowingly that Zach put money on him, and he like tampered with the competition's bike so that they would have an accident and lose the race. And that's what he does. He like is like a not a bookie, but like he places bets on bike races, I guess. Zach thinks he can use Allison to get Jamal out of retirement. And Jack goes by the water and comes across a naked Livy. And for more time than I care to admit, I thought it was a fantasy. I didn't want to fall for it.
Yeah. But I actually remember the scene. I remember the scene from like when I watched it back in the day. Unfortunately, this was directed by the fired producer, so we'll just put that off to the side.
I saw his name in the credits.
Yeah, so yeah. 2 episodes this week were directed by him, and I was able to catch like people's
I don't
reaction.
always watch the credits, but it came up like right away, directed by, and I was like, come
on, why couldn't it be Andrew Lee who did he did the first episode of the week, and that was where it was like a music video, like a cut between Ariana getting stabbed and Ian and Eve making love. That was really good.
That was a really good direction.
Yeah, that should have been directed by Andrew Lee.
It's not good when
not good.
It's not adding to his case when episodes like this are directed.
Yeah, because like when you really think about it, like Kelly Monaco she started her career out as a Playboy model, so I'm so sure they use that to their advantage.
Yeah. I'm sure they were like, well, whatever. She's comfortable being naked. We'll just do that.
Let's do that, yeah.
Not even asking if she was like comfortable.
Yeah, and when I think about it, no. See, there's some weird parts about Livy's character where she always uses her body to get men, which I'm not okay with entirely.
Yeah, but again, if it was
a
production thing, because she showed up in Chris's bed naked.
Yep.
It's icky.
It's weird.
Ian talks to Ariana. Oh no, I'm sorry. Eve talks to Ariana, who's in a coma, and she's telling her that she's safe now, and she has a lot of people that care about her and are worried about her and they want her to come back. And then Ian comes in and sits by her bedside and talks to her. Jack embraces a naked Livy and they make out. And I still was like, I don't know if this is real or not. I'm very traumatized by passions, and they're like very long fantasy. Ariana squeezes Ian's hand. Frank and Karen see the last message from Cookie. They don't understand how they got it if the computer is unplugged.
Ooh.
Frank wants to find out where Cookie is and get her help from a counselor, and Karen's kind of just like, forget about Cookie. And I'm just like, you wanted to help her at the beginning of the week. And
exactly. Just because the computer's active doesn't mean you can't help the person behind it.
There's still a teenage girl that needs help, and you're just like, fuck
exactly.
her.
I mean, Karen, you're not seeing this, but Cookie's being like slapped around and like berated and stuff like that. She needs all the help that she gets, that she can.
Jack and Livy blurt out every answer to every misunderstanding they've ever had in the last few months as they're making out. The Sam, like finding Sam in his room, the whole Chris thing, just everything. And as Livy removes his clothes, this is the first time they're making love, right?
I think so. I think the other times it's like implied that it was implied, but it could easily have been like, oh, they're just making out. But
yeah, and they both like say I love you. I don't know if that's for the first time, but they both like say it to each other.
Yeah.
Like it's reciprocated. Karen's going through old boxes with her mom, and they find something that belonged to her aunt Caroline that died before Karen was born. Frank gets in touch with Cookie, and she tells him her dad got shocked by the computer, and Frank tells her that Karen also got shocked. So Frank thinks that maybe they shouldn't correspond through the computer anymore, and he'll get her professional help. He says this is the last time they can communicate through the computer, and Cookie says that she trusts him, and she says that she lives in a little town in New York called Port Charles.
Uh-oh.
So Frank's like, oh, this is great. She lives in town. I can find her and help her. Karen finds a picture of her Aunt Caroline, and it looks exactly like Karen.
Yep. And then there was a part that Rhonda said, I named you after Carolyn because I couldn't pronounce Carolyn as a child. It came out as Karen. Which I thought that was thought that was cute.
Jack and Livy bask in the afterglow of their making love, and this is when I accepted that it was not a fantasy. And after talking with Kevin and Chris and just like beating down on himself, Ian meets up with Eve, and he tells her that they can't do this anymore and it's over. And that's how the week ended. So I knew this was going to happen. I knew Ian was going to blame himself because he should have been there. Eve was even blaming herself, but Chris was a good friend to her. I like those scenes.
There's a little kernel that you forgot.
What?
Ian mentions his sister.
Oh, right.
Yes. Yep.
He mentioned that he didn't realize who Ariana reminded him of until now, and he mentions his sister. I was taking notes. I didn't pay too close attention. I know he said that his sister died, and he should have been there for her as her big brother that was a doctor. Did he mention what happened? No. He didn't.
However, I'm going to provide a little bit of a spoiler. We do meet the sister.
Oh.
Yeah. I have forgotten all about it, but like she's played by somebody who's very close to Thorsten Kaye. You probably know her as Marty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm excited for those episodes because I'm like, wait a minute, this is the part that I remember with the sister. So yeah.
Oh, I didn't know she left One Life to Live. I thought she was like consistently
No. They both left One Life to Live. That's where they met. So remember, what's her name? Susan Haskell and Thorsten Kaye are still married. They got married. They met on One Life to Live and they got married. So yeah, she plays the sister. I'm not going to say who her name is because I plan on making a joke about her name, but because I'm like, oh, I remember the sister part. So, but yeah, they're still married to this day. In fact, I think Susan Haskell retired from acting so she can raise their kids together. So that's why you see Thorsten more than you see Susan.
Well, didn't she come back to One Life to Live after Christina?
She did, she did. Yep, that was with Mad Marty. Yes, I love that.
And there was like that whole controversy because Marty and the recast Todd were like falling in
Victor
love, and he
time.
was he was her rapist, and
Yeah, because she got amnesia, I think.
oh, okay.
And
That storyline's a little more fresher in my mind because I've been listening to old Daytime Confidential episodes.
yes, me too. So she had amnesia, and then that's how they kind of played around with that gross storyline that shouldn't have never happened. But I mean, they kind of
in a
retconned
way,
it.
though,
They kind of
I know that
retconned it.
wasn't Todd. Didn't they bring it back as he was like Todd's twin? So technically, she wasn't falling in love with her rapist.
She
But
just wants to fall in love
we
with
didn't
him.
know that back then.
Yep.
So okay, you said that Thorsten was on One Life to Live, and Ian is his One Life to Live character's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Does he ever play his One Life to Live character on Port Charles?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Not at all. He mentions him a lot, though, from what I understand. Like, I think he mentioned him a lot in the beginning when he came on.
Okay.
But not so much like now. I've noticed he doesn't bring him. He doesn't bring Patrick up at all.
Okay, I was wondering if that would like play into the sister coming in. And... No.
We'll put a pin in that. Also, because I remember parts of it, but I don't remember all of it. So
yeah. All right. Well, I'm intrigued. It's weird because I feel like some days we're really heavy on Cookie and like the computer, and then other days we just don't mention that at all. So I'm like, we're 5 weeks in. I'm like, all right, when's the time travel gonna start? Like,
yeah. Yeah, because I feel like there are three major stories. There's Ian and Eve and Ariana. There's the computer, and then there's a combination of Jack and Livy in the bike shop,
mm-hmm.
and the bike shop with Jamal and Allison, and then like all that, and then like and kind of in the periphery, there's Lucy and Kevin and their hijinks.
Yeah, I feel like Lucy and Kevin are just on a break right now. Like they're together and they're happy and they're just kind of meddling in other people's stories.
Like let's meddle in other people's stories. Like hey, we're happy together. Let's mess around a little bit.
Yeah, Lucy will have her time when she becomes a vampire slayer.
She'll have her time. She will have her time.
But I feel like we're heading into the storyline that leads with the bike shop that leads into Tainted Love. So I'm excited. Mm-hmm. But do you have anything else to add?
I forgot all about, and this is kind of another little spoiler. I forgot that what's the guy's name? Morley. No, not Caleb.
Michael.
The father. Yeah, the priest. Right. I forgot how the priest gets introduced.
I think he's Michael, right?
Is that Michael? Name? Yeah. I forgot how he gets introduced, but I feel like that's coming up soon.
Why do I feel like I'm remembering Eve being pregnant? Was she pregnant?
Did have a kid on the show.
And I don't know. I feel like she was staying at a church or a convent, and that's how she knew Michael. I don't know. Because she met Michael first.
Yeah.
And Caleb was like locked in the dungeon in the basement or something.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much my memory remembers when we get
there.
Yeah,
because I remember bits and pieces of it because, of course, this came on while I was in school, so I couldn't watch all of it. But I remember just like having my soap opera digest or my soap opera weekly, reading it and going through. Oh, I remember this part. I remember reading this. I remember watching this. I remember doing that. I think the most stuff that I remember would be the Jamal and Allison bike shop, Livy and Chris part. No, sorry, Livy and Jack, and Chris because he's in the periphery there. Part because I was like geared towards me, the younger audience that everybody wants to gear towards. So
wasn't I guess it probably starts and probably towards the end of this, but didn't Chris like create like a serum to cure vampirism or something?
Probably.
In Tainted Love.
I feel like he wasn't in it as much after the Livy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember that Soap Opera Weekly was like saying like, oh yeah, we need to use Nolan North more. Let's do an arc called Hungry Like the Wolf he's where he's where he runs into werewolves, a pack of werewolves, because they need to use Nolan North more. And then it turns out that they almost did, because remember Amani at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh my god.
But that was more Jamal than Chris. That was Jamal.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you, because we kind of briefly touched on this on Twitter. So you had mentioned that Livy was said to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how did that? Do you remember how that came about? Was Kevin just like, "Oh, I had a daughter, Livy, that died"? Like, did he like just say it in passing?
I don't remember. See, I don't remember how that came about. I want to say that it probably was, and somebody can help me out in the comments. I want to say that was because like Caleb was on the show briefly too on General Hospital. I want to say that came from Caleb, but
well, I remember they were like acknowledging Port Charles, but they were just kind of just like brushing it away like it was like a fever dream. Like they had Allison come on with her son, and I remember her being killed, and I was like, "Oh wow, they brought her back to kill her." Like I was shocked that happened.
And then they brought her son on, only to kill him like a year later.
Yeah, that shocked me too, but I had stopped watching at that point. But I remember them saying that Stephen Clay, which is another role that Michael Easton played on Port Charles, thought he was a vampire named Caleb because he had like a mental illness, and that's how they kind of like brushed off the whole vampire thing. I don't really remember how they addressed why Lucy thought she was a vampire slayer, or if they even addressed it. But like...
I know that she stabbed Sam because she thought she was living.
Oh, really?
I think it was Sam that she stabbed. I know she stabbed somebody, and then she went into the hospital, the mental hospital.
See, and I don't ever remember them talking about Livy except for maybe like Kayla. What's his name? Stephen Clay. Is that what I said?
Clay, yeah.
Like thinking that Sam looked like Livy.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't remember them mentioning like what Livy's fate was. So maybe I have to go back and like watch.
Yeah. And then they also
I was like, Livy's dead? Really? They killed Livy?
Yeah, they did bring up that Livy was dead, but I forgot how and like what capacity they brought her up. And then they brought up the candles from Supernatural. I thought the candles were from Time and About, but they were from Supernatural. I think. I know that, remember Lucy had candles and she lit them?
Mm-hmm.
And then it led to some stuff. Remember when...
Was it Superstition? Was that what it was?
Superstition, yeah. I'm sorry. Superstition, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. I wish there was one called Supernatural. but yeah, Supernatural. You know, maybe they did have Supernatural. I'm forgetting the arcs after Tainted Love for some reason.
I know there was Torn, Tempted.
There was Torn, Tempted by the Fruit of a
Secret.
The Madonna one. But they had the candles, and then when I forgot the names, Jocelyn and Sprina. What's her name? What's the Trina? When Jocelyn and Trina went back in time, they lit a candle, and then Lucy saw the candles. Like, oh no!
Really?
Yep. So it was
during
remember
the
that. Yes, so remember the I don't know if you were watching that, but remember when they went back to the 1920s for the voter suppression?
Oh, vaguely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was, they used the candles from I think it was from one of the arcs.
That's
and
cool.
Lucy knew about the candles.
That's cool.
Yeah, and this would have been Chris and Dan at that point, so I think that would have been them writing.
I like it when they like connect the show and they do little nods.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, you have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
I just wanted to say that the directing in this episode, in the Monday, Tuesday episodes, whatever episodes had like the over the headshots, I
Mhm.
really liked that. And then actually Tuesday episode felt like it was longer than, like I felt like I was watching it for like an hour show, which because it was so, I was so like taken in by it.
Mhm.
Like with like, oh my gosh, is Ariana gonna survive? Like,
Yeah.
are Eve and Ian going to survive this? Well, it turns out the answer to one is yes and the other is no. So
I think it was like
triggered by
Ian
it.
and Eve's like blaming themselves, like they shouldn't have been together, like, and this
Mhm,
wouldn't have happened. That made me annoyed that Ariana was in a coma, and I'm like, really?
mhm.
She's annoying in a coma? But it was mostly them that were annoying.
And then I just realized we were talking about this last week. They weren't in like one of those rooms where when they made love, they were in one of those rooms where like you where like you sleep, you sleep overnight. They were in a patient room.
They were.
And
Well,
I'm
the
like, oh my
scene,
gosh, how did I not see that?
the scene with Chris and Eve talking in that room, and she's like, "We were in this bed." Chris kind of looked at it and was
He
like,
was like,
"Really?"
oh. And
Like
then
he
he
got up,
stands up,
like, "Did you clean the sheet?"
he stands up very slowly. I remember that I was dying with that person. Like, we were in this bed.
And
Oh,
isn't he like the chief of staff, or at least of that wing or whatever? Like, isn't he like
I
some kind of
think
head doctor
I
or
know
something?
he's I think he's had a surgery, I want to say.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's like your boss. Like, you're like he could be like, really? You had sex on like work grounds?
Yeah,
Like,
but but luckily Chris is
we're friends.
corrupted and even Chris are friends, so nothing can be done about that.
And there's nothing Chris wouldn't do either. So
Yeah, because like he would like in the like the beginning of the show he would like have sex with nurses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I think one of them he met, like, so Nolan is married to a woman named, I forgot her name. Well, they met on Port Charles, and they've been married ever since. Like, they met on Port Charles, and they've been married ever since. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, and unfortunately, Nolan has nothing nice to say about soap operas, so we could just praise him and then just remember in the back of his head that, he would rather forget being on the show.
Meanwhile, he went on to do a primetime soap as a father on Pretty Little Liars.
Yes, Pretty Little Liars, yep.
But
They
whatever.
had a lot of good actors on it. They had Laura Layton,
Mhm.
Holly Marie Combs. Like that's the only reason why I watched that show because of the parents. I was like, oh, I remember her from Melrose Place. I remember her from Charm, The Picket Fences, and I remember her from Port Charles.
I'll never forget. It was either the pilot or the second episode, but Laura Layton played one of the moms,
hmm
and her daughter got caught shoplifting, and she like slept, I think, with a cop or whatever that was trying to press charges against her. And I'll never forget like the scene of like her daughter in the living room, like at night watching TV, and the mom comes home with the cop, and they're going up the stairs, and she just kind of looks at her daughter like, "I'm doing this for you." Like she's sleeping with the cop to get the charges dropped. And I was like, that was such a Melrose Place moment. Like,
That is. Was she Ashley Benson's
yeah, it was
mom?
Ashley Benson's
Yeah. Okay.
character.
That I was so proud of Ashley Benson for landing that show.
Yeah, that's not why she left Days, because that was a few years after she
No, it
left.
was a few years after.
But yeah, I always liked her Abby.
Yeah, me too. She got Jennifer into like she was the one that said like oh god, I remember she was like, oh well, oh god, what, how did she say it? She was like I think she was like against her dating Daniel, I think, or maybe I don't think it was Daniel. She was
No,
dating or
Daniel
Frankie.
was
Frankie. I think it was Frankie or
Oh,
Daniel, one of them.
probably
And she
Frankie.
was like, you're just betraying dad. And I'm like, oh, go off, girl.
But all right, well, thank you for joining us for another edition of Port Charles Time in a Bottle. We will be back very soon with another week's worth of episodes. Until then, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soups. And until next time, bye.
Bye.